are beyond excited to have you here today. I am beyond excited and humbled for all of the folks that I get to talk to today. All the information that you are about to receive is bonkers that you're receiving all of this for FREE, okay? This is going to be such an exciting event. I just want to let everybody know there will be time for a Q&A at the end. I know going around and talking with each of you, you have such great, interesting stories, things that you're working on, where you are in your journey as a creator. So please know that at the end, we will make time for you guys to ask any of those specific questions, because again, we are here to invest in you. Sound good? Say yes? Yes. I love it. Welcome to Skewed Orbit Studios. My name is Rachel LaForce. I'm one of the co-founders here. I got to come around and say hello to each and every one of you. If I did not get around to each and every one of you, talk to me after. I've got some free tickets for you, and I would love to connect with you. Here at Skewed Orbit Studios, we are a venue first. You can rent our space. We are also a full-fledged production company. You can see our small podcast studio back there where all of the magic happens. So we do all sorts of production. I myself, I'm a comedian, I'm a thought leader, and a media entrepreneur. And more than anything, I am so excited to introduce the next three people for you. This is so exciting. Starting all the way down at the end, everybody say, "Hi, Joanne." Hi, Joanne. Hello. I don't think you guys are ready for this. Joanne Bolt is the founder of Podcast Her and the host of the $1 Million Breakthrough podcast, where she shares what it takes to hit consistently $10,000 a month as a woman in business. She has a background in sales. You can woo it up for that. She's got a background in sales and a straight shooting style. She helps entrepreneurs using podcasting as a tool to drive revenue, not just to rack up listeners. We're going to be coming to her for all of the revenue-based questions. She's got so much in store for us, and we are so grateful. Give it to us, Mama. We love it. We love the boots. We love money. And we really, really love your work and what you're doing. We're very excited to have you here today. Sitting here in the middle, we are so excited. Again, this event is put on by Riverside FM and Podcasting Pathway. Clap it up for Riverside FM. And our founder right here of Podcasting Pathway. Please give it up. Everybody say, "Hi, Gerald." Hi, Gerald. This is so exciting. Gerald Davis is the founder of Dream to Dream Media, a mobile podcast production company that helps professionals turn their ideas into high-quality, authority-building podcasts. He is also the host of Lunch with the Cool Kids, a show that explores real conversations about life, relationships, and purpose. He has designed this podcast to make every listener feel like they belong, which is huge. Like I said, we are here because of Podcasting Pathway. It is his private coaching community that has helped over 200, podcasters launch, grow, and monetize their shows. This is so exciting. Please give it up to Gerald. Those are only two of our speakers. We still have one more beacon of expertise. Please, everybody say, "Hi, Jamie." Hi, Jamie. This is Jamie Maglietta. She is the owner and head of production of On Camera Ready. Jamie is a television industry powerhouse with over 2 decades shaping broadcast news across America's leading networks. MSNBC, maybe you've heard of it, Fox News Channel, Fox Business Network, and right here at CNN. Drawing from her background as both a producer and on-camera talent, combined with experience as an opera singer, and Miss New Jersey contestant, Jamie helps experts overcome self-criticism and confidently showcase their expertise on camera. Welcome, Jamie. This is major. My entire body, I've got goosebumps. I'm so excited to hear all of your knowledge, and I know everybody else that is here today is too. So, we're here to talk about podcast growth. All things in regards to podcast growth, whether that's growing your audience, getting more downloads, engagement, how do you get started, how do you not burn out so you can hit that growth place. Before we get started, I just want to get a gauge of you all. Nobody's judging anybody, so raise your hand, okay? We're all here to have a good time. Raise your hand if you're currently using Riverside FM. I love it. They love the hands too, I'll tell you what. They love to see it. That's great. Raise your hand if you're currently podcasting. Great. Raise your hand if you are, you're finally ready to take that leap and start doing some podcasting. Yeah! Clap it up for that. That is major. I'm really excited for all that you guys are going to create. Awesome. Okay, so we're just going to start with a general question. I would love to hear this from you guys. Again, this is going to be action-packed as far as all of the information you guys are going to receive today. We're going to make it as impactful as possible while being as conversational as possible, okay? So that's really what we're going to do. My first question is, how would you all individually define growth? So do you define it by downloads or audience engagement, revenue, and that's your personal opinion, and then also how you feel podcasters should identify growth for themselves?
Shall I start? I'll start. First of all, hey everybody. Hey. You guys are beautiful today. And before I answer that question, do me a favor, keep holding this, because I owe Margaret a microphone. She was. She was.
There are prizes?
Yes. People in our community, podcast pathway, they know that I will bribe them with a prize very, very quickly. And she won one of our contests, and it was amazing. So I was like, and I hate shipping things out, so I'm just giving it to her. So there you go. Don't let me say that I don't honor my word. How do you define growth? I think that more than anything, like anything in tech, the answer is always, it depends. What's the best camera to buy? It depends. What microphone should I use? It depends. What should my show be about? It depends. You know, so the answer to the question is, it does depend. But I think it's kind of like a GPS or Apple Maps, if you're cool. Once you plug it in and you go to the Maps app, it's just blank. It's just a whole bunch of stuff that's there. It doesn't actually have value until you put in a direction. And then once you put in that direction, now it can tell you, okay, go up, then turn left, then turn right, then turn right. So the answer to how do you define growth? It depends. What do you want it to be? Do you want it to be a platform where you get your message out, where you share your thing to the world? Do you want to make $10,000 a month? And I'm mad because I'm a man, so I can't. Like, what do you want? What do you want your podcast to be? And once you answer that question, are you able to get there? And if you're able to get there, ladies and gentlemen, we got a successful podcast. It may not necessarily be a million downloads. You may not want to be Mel Robbins. You may want to be Mel Robbins. I don't know. But whatever your this is my why, once you hit that, you have a successful podcast.
That's great. Go ahead, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I totally agree. You've got to look at it and say, who am I here to serve? And what's my goal? It's not about sponsorships. It's not about how much I can monetize the podcast, so I need to grow it. No, it's who am I here to serve? If you're running a coaching business and you can fill your coaching business with the 100 people that are listening to your podcast, who gives a crap if you grow it to 1,000?
Yep.
It doesn't matter. You've hit your goal and you're serving your people. So that's when I define growth. I'm looking at, am I now still serving who I want to serve? Am I reaching a few more people? Am I impacting a few more people? I can tell you I haven't looked at my download numbers in almost a year. Doesn't matter.
I'll just add on to that. Growth is a question we all want. Like, you want to know that your podcast is being listened to. You want to know that people are getting your message, right? And I think what he's saying and what she's saying is very true. Give yourself a number. Like, say, okay, I want 10 people to reach out to me and say that they were inspired by my podcast. And then I want 20. I want 50. And when you reach those numbers, you'll start to feel the growth and you'll see the growth, and that's the best way to really judge it, in my opinion, too. Because it is hard to grow your podcast, and we'll get into that, but yes.
No, I think that's all great because it's making it personalized. And when we're speaking from a place of our expertise or our passion, then that becomes undeniable. I think that's beautiful. So actually, speaking about getting started, maybe some of you guys are at this place. Gerald, you talk a lot about finding your first 1,000 listeners. Kind of touching on that of starting of this place of growth, what do you think is the most important mindset or tactic for podcasters starting out to reach that milestone?
5 T's. These 5 T's, if you get these 5 T's right, you can have the world. If you don't get these 5 T's right, no matter how you define growth, you're going to fail at it. And I'm going to tell it to you. 5 T's. T number 1. And y'all, I'm a talker, so I'm going to try to ring it in, but I hope this helps. T number 1, target. Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? Once you know who you are talking to, you know how to serve them. More importantly, you know who not to talk to. Like, I want to be a podcast her, I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm not her target audience. I'm just not. Know who you are talking to. So once you know who you're talking to, and I gotta move fast, once you know who you're talking to, it's very, not easy, but you have a path to break it down. What's their demographic? More importantly, what's their demographic? What's their psychographic? What do they feel? What do they believe? How do they consume? What's their path to create? What are the hangups that they have in their path to create? Answer one of those questions, and guess what? Now you're their hero. And when you're their hero, they come back because you just fed them something and now they want more. Guess what? That's your first 100. Okay, so now after the target, it's your topic. Your topic. Are you talking about the thing that your target cares about? And this is where 95% of us, we lose it. Because we talk about the things that we care about. And we want our listeners to join in on the ride. Ladies and gentlemen, guess what? They don't care. They only care about them. So if you talk about the things that they care about and say it in a way that they relate to it, guess what? Now we're probably at 500. Okay, these are the very 2 tactical things. Your thumbnail. If you're doing, let's just assume we're doing video and audio. Your thumbnail matters. I can't talk about how much, but it does matter. Your title that's the 4th T. It matters just as much as your thumbnail. If they don't click, if they're not interested, they don't care. Doesn't matter. I get it. You had a wonderful show, you had a wonderful guest, I get it. She cried, you cried, everybody cried. I understand. The audience doesn't care. The thumbnail there has to be a psychological trigger that opens up a curiosity loop that makes them say, what are they talking about? Your brain, and I'm moving quickly, but your brain is dismissing like a jillion thumbnails a minute because it doesn't want to think. You have to interrupt that pattern and say, hey, I'm worth listening to. Okay, so your title, your thumbnail does the same thing. After that, it's the first 30 seconds, AKA the hook. People want click confirmation. People want, okay, you got me on the title. You did, you got me. You got me on the thumbnail. Now when I click, I need to make sure that I'm gonna get what I clicked for. That does not mean, hey guys, welcome back to Lunch with the Cool Kids. Man, I had a fun weekend this weekend and I went to Galveston Beach. That's in Houston, y'all don't really know what that is, but it's a beach, it's not as pretty. You know what I mean? And we think that we're warming up. They've been to left. Okay, so that's the 5 T's, and if you're cool, the last one is a transformation. If you can offer your audience a transformation, if you can give them a thing that if they do that, their lives will change, then you're their hero, and they'll keep coming back.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so you can clap it up for that. That was a monologue. That was awesome. There's so many, it's true, there's so many good things, we could even break that down, and I know, like you said, I mean, you're truncating an entire course, essentially, that you teach, right, into just one quick thing. But a couple of things that you said, and I want to bounce around to a few of them, but one of the things, because you talked about really a how-to is what mistakes to not make, right? And sometimes when we know what the landmines are or things to avoid, then we're already ahead. Right? Because like you said, growing a podcast is hard. So what are the things that we can avoid, these simple mistakes, in order to, it's like, okay, whew, there's one lily pad that we jumped, right? So I'm curious, what is one mistake that you guys see, this is a general question, new podcasters making that's something easily to avoid? Or maybe something, even you could personalize it, something that you did where it's like, I didn't need to do that. I didn't need to do that.
I will totally triple down on the title. Like, you get caught up in the title, you overthink the title, but then you think, oh, it's gonna be cutesy, right? Come on, girls, how many of us have been guilty of that? My first podcast was called The B Word. It was a play on my last name.
Y'all better write, that's a good title.
I thought so. Here's the problem, it's the B dash word. That's not searchable. Took me 2.5 years to figure that out. So it's like, and the other thing is, I felt like every time I said my podcast is called The B Word, I had to explain, yeah, I do work with female entrepreneurs, we're not bitches, and it's a play on my last name. So if you have to explain what your podcast title means, or it's not searchable, it's the wrong frickin' title. Y'all, we changed The B Word to the $1 Million Breakthrough, and my editors called me and they were like, Joanne, did you invest in any form of advertising or pay to play? And I was like, no, I ain't got time for that right now. We've got too much else going on. And he was like, your downloads over the last month tripled. And the only thing we can figure out is that we changed the title of it. And I didn't even announce to my audience. Like, I didn't do the whole, like, come along on the journey with me. We're going to change it. No, I just literally one day changed it in Buzzsprout, and the next thing we know, it was out there. And so I didn't do the whole warm up the audience like you're supposed to, but we changed the freaking name to what it's about, and it's searchable. And now I don't have to explain it. And it tripled my downloads. Like, why didn't someone tell me that before?
Well, one of the things really, I think that you said, and you guys were kind of joking about it earlier when I was reading your beautiful bios, and you were laughing about, I think if I can give a little bit of the tea, this is the 6th T, that you guys ran it through ChatGPT, right? That's the 7th T, apparently. That they just keep coming. But that's a great idea of, like, you can ask ChatGPT, like, if you have a couple of titles that you're searching, like, hey, which one is the most, like, has the best SEO? Hey, how can you change this title for me to give me better SEO, right? Like, there's all of those small things that you can do to be able to make it more searchable. I think that's such a killer feedback.
Yeah. I would agree. I did that myself, and I've even asked ChatGPT, how many podcasts are out there that talk about this, and it will go out and look into it. And here's the thing I'm going to add, and this is not a mistake, but it's something I see people make. You need to have a strategy in place. You can't just say, hey, I'm gonna start a podcast, here we go. No, you really wanna do your research. So when I'm developing podcasts, I work with people on what is your ultimate goal? You need to know that. What is the outcome you want from spending all this time talking and potentially interviewing people? You then have to figure out, okay, if this is what you want to talk about, how many other people are doing exactly what you want to be doing? What are they calling it? Okay, what's their format? How long are their podcasts? You want to look at that. And whenever we're developing a podcast, we're also listening to their words. What are the first things they say in the 30 seconds? What is their tagline at the end? Because you also want to understand the messaging that they're delivering so that you're not repeating what they're saying and you can be unique. So I would highly recommend you do the strategy and really focus on what you want and think through how to get there and do your research, because not everyone does.
I just want to plug in real quick about ChatGPT. It's not a little thing, it is the thing.
Yeah,
it is the thing. If you don't have ChatGPT, then remove yourself from this talk, go download it. It's going to change. It's like, what's Claude?
Oh, Claude's your friend too.
Oh, Oh, shout out to Cloud. Okay. Okay. But no, in our podcast pathway community, all of April, we had a ChatGPT prompt of the day. Changed everything. 100% ChatGPT.
So smart, and I would say, as a creator and a media entrepreneur and running this space, I was actually late to the game with ChatGPT, and now I feel like I'm playing catch up, both on the learning curve, but also really knowing that it's, and I know it goes in the whole thing of like, we're gonna have relationships with AI. That's a workshop for a different day, okay? But for purposes of right now, the more I nurture it, it can do work for me. And that the more that I put into it, and like you said, the specificity, how many people are doing what I want to do? Because I say this all the time, and I know a lot of you are here because you say, well, it's too saturated, there's too many people who do what I want to do. And I always say, if the market is saturated, that just means that they're still accepting applications. And there is no reason why you can clap it up for that. You can clap it up for that. That you can't keep doing what you want to do. And I think being able to put your energy in there is major. And talking about that, of knowing, Jamie, I want to come to you, that you're really good at trend forecasting. And knowing kind of where the trends are going and how could we use that potentially to our advantage. And if you could just kind of talk a little bit about your expertise within that area.
So we talked about our expertise. One of the shows that I had was the Reliable Sources podcast on CNN. And with that, you always had to look ahead at what people are talking about, what will they be talking about, and who's saying what, okay? And you kind of want to take that into your own podcast. You want to start thinking ahead, looking ahead, and staying up on the news and trends. And here I'm going to say the top podcasts right now have 4 things in common: news, authenticity, raw energy, and humor. They also deliver this 5th thing, a transformation. Okay? They all do. You look at Joe Rogan, right? You listen to that podcast. You're learning something that you may not have agreed with, but you're leaving with a new mindset. You listen to even Call Her Daddy. Like, they may not be for you, but you're leaving with something different. You're leaving with a new emotion, a new thought. And that's what is happening right now. If you look at the top trending podcasts, they're giving you something, like you said, a transformation. You're walking away with either feeling better about yourself, knowing how to correct something. And The Daily, that's also a top podcast, it takes you deeper into the news. So you leave with a better understanding. Do you hear what I'm saying? It's not just like you're listening to a podcast and I'm walking away knowing how to market my business online. No, you're leaving with an emotional change, a transformation. So storytelling is huge right now. And if you're thinking about rebranding or you're thinking about reshuffling, start thinking about that. Yeah.
Okay, can I tag you in on that? And also, if you're thinking about who you're interviewing, if you do interview shows, I want you to really think about like the Call Her Daddies and the Diary of the CEO. Yeah, they do interviews. And so as a podcast host, a lot of times we think, oh, then I should do interviews. Their guests aren't on those shows selling their product. They're giving you a learning moment, a transformation. So if you're gonna have people on your show, don't just go on the local Facebook group to whoever raises their hand that wants to sell their own brand on your show. If they aren't a match for your audience, or all they're doing is selling their own product, you're not giving your audience a transformation. Like, bring on the expert in Canva and have them teach you to use Canva, not sell their services. Like, that means your audience will trust you and come back next week.
I want to dive in real quick. In talking about the mistakes, it's a couple. This is the one that
trigger you with Facebook groups. Not to
if there's just like one mistake, like Jared, if you can just get one mistake that I can take with me for the rest of my life that I'd never do again, don't make the mistake of, hey, I'm getting ready to do this interview. Who wants to come on?
What he said.
That
Can you tell that's a TED Talk for me, I am like, please don't.
That is a mistake because you're gonna get everybody who just wants to talk about a thing and they have no real value. They don't fit your audience. Your audience doesn't care about them. They're boring. They don't know how to drive a narrative. All of these things that would make a person turn, you're taking 40 of those interviews. And guess what? Ladies and gentlemen, I say ladies and gentlemen a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, when you do 40 interviews of people that nobody wants to watch, now you have an obligation to release 40 episodes that nobody cares about.
If you're bored, so are they.
And let me say this real quick. No, I'm not going to say it. Well, I'll go ahead and say it. They don't, everybody, however many people in this room, you should probably have some version of contacts and a guest for your shows. Because here's the secret, here's the sauce. Podcast hosts are even better podcast guests. Because they know exactly how to drive the podcast. So, man, God bless your aunt. I'm sure she's nice. That's not your guest. That's not your guest.
Do Instagram Live.
Do Instagram Live, yes. But no, don't stop. Just stop. Yes.
Facebook Live. So I'm just going to add on to this. When you're looking at what is doing well, there's a lot of drivers outside of storytelling. It's also conversation building, right? So it's not just one guest, it's two. It's not just one host, it's a co-host or a guest host. You want to start thinking of chat. Like, what can we do that's a conversation that's going to make the person listening feel like they're in the room, okay? And the other, when you're putting this all together and you start listening to podcasts, you're like, oh, yeah, she's right. The other thing is Amy Poehler's podcast. The name is leaving me. Good Hang, right? This is so clever. Every guest that she's interviewing, she interviews their friends beforehand. Like, that is just a great way to do a build-up, but also create a story without having to say, he did this and he does this. It's like, no, I'm gonna let the people that know him tell it. It's great.
I think that's brilliant. The thing I want to tag on that is creativity. I think podcasting, because it feels like everybody has one now. The thing is you don't need to repeat what somebody else is already doing. There's already so many people doing that. I always tell people when I'm coaching, why you, why now? Are you the person to have this podcast? Are you the person to tell this story? Because we may not all be on the same side, but we're really good at sniffing out bullshit. And one of the fastest ways to lose people is we don't believe you, right? And so knowing you may actually have to be braver than you think you are when you're coming up with a podcast, because the podcast that you really are destined to have be successful in whatever that measurement means to you is behind your initial idea, right? Yeah, gosh, I feel like I could talk to you guys and ask you questions for days.
What's the other questions? I want to move on.
Yeah.
But before you do, I think there's so much value in what you just said. A lot of our frustrations is we're taking frameworks from people that are doing things, and we're taking that framework, but we're just mimicking them, and we're doing not a great version of it. And we're wondering, like, why can't our content break through? It's because we're just doing what everybody else is doing it and put a clever name on it. The way that we win in this space is to not be polished, but to be the most polished version of you. Does that make sense? Like, I'm from Texas. I talk slow. You know what I mean? And like, I have a little bit of twang, and I get really excited and animated when I'm passionate about something. And a lot of people, and sometimes, and my wife hates it because it takes so long for me to get a thought out. But a lot of people will be like, oh man, that's not, I need to clean that up to be on the screen. No, that's the thing that makes me me.
Yes.
And when you see me, you have an opinion real quick. You either really, really like me, or you really, really don't. And both are good, because the people that don't, they don't need to be on the train anyway. But I think so many of us, we're trying to play the middle of the fence so we can get everybody, that we end up getting nobody.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, I'll co-sign on that. I kind of have a two-part question because we're talking a lot about prepping your audience. Joanne, that was something you talked about. Jamie, you touched on needing to have a plan, right? If you're really wanting some growth, like where are you going? Where do you think you're going? That also went into the 5 T's. And so I want to ask a general question, then I want to narrow in with you, Joanne, really about, I know sometimes when I spoke with some of you guys where it's like, all right, I'm going to start bringing my podcast back, right? Because you hit that place of burnout. There's no blame, there's no shame, right? There's just a better way for us to do this so that we can stay consistent, so we can move and create content and create a podcast with ease. And I would like to just say, that's also something that takes time. That's something you have to shift into, right? You guys didn't just start and then you had all these credits, right? This is a long time of trial and error. Like you said, of even changing the name of your podcast. So I'm curious if you guys could speak on one change that you think creators can make to their content that is in support of their podcast that can help make all the difference. And then we're gonna narrow in on that with you, Joanne. Yeah, so just a general question about what you guys think in regards to content that can go along to promote and nurture not only an audience, but the brand of the podcast.
Okay, so a part of On Cam Ready, it's a social media production company, and I help people figure out how to turn their ideas into content. Here's the thing, if you wrote a book, you have a keynote, you have a podcast, you need to, again, iron out your messaging and show up as regularly as possible, hammering that home, because you're gonna find someone who hasn't heard you yet, right? But you also need your legitimizers within that content, like why you, why now, like she's saying. And I don't do this myself. I tell people and I'm like, oh, you gotta do it, you gotta make the time. And whenever I'm working with people, I'm like, you need a structure to it. So when you're sharing your content, you really want video. I know we're all, like, podcasting started as an audio only, and we really enjoyed that, being in our pajamas, hanging out. No, you need to be on camera ready, because if you are an expert, you could be seen by the press one day, and they're gonna say, is she camera ready? Oh, wow, yeah, she's got a podcast, and she's got it going on, right? Or he, sorry. But your content share needs to be different per social media platform. You know, your YouTube shorts are perfect. Use them if you're gonna post your podcast on YouTube. And you can, from the RSS, your podcast can go to YouTube, no video. So I highly recommend also adding a video clip of 5 minutes, no less, because you need ads to generate if you get the views. And then the rest can be audio, like if you don't want to do the whole thing. And then you want to make sure that when you're on Instagram, you're talking about the podcast, not just playing clips. Okay, because Instagram people are pulling away from that unless you're in an in-person environment. Virtual isn't clicking as well. LinkedIn, you could do those virtual interviews and those will go far because that's the audience. So know your audience before you share, strategize. You guys?
Yeah, I'll just say really quickly, and I don't think that I'll say anything that's too different than what any of these ladies will say, so I'll add this twist. Go physical places.
Yes.
Be in rooms. Magic happens in the room. Man, I know that Zoom call is great. I know virtual coffee is cool. Be in the room. Because a lot of times, if you're just in the room, you just meet them and you're like, oh, hey, I got a podcast. You want to be on the podcast next week? Oh, yeah, sure. As opposed to like how that thing happened kind of in 5 seconds. Virtually, that's like a 6-week conversation. Yeah, and by show of hands, how many can attest to that? Yeah, and we spend so much time trying. I mean, don't get me wrong. We got to hit those virtual streets. Be in rooms, and your life will change.
Well, and I'll add on that. We're here because you came here in the room. You came to, the whole reason we're here is you came to one of our open houses, and we connected right away, and that's why we're here.
That's 100% true. I didn't know them. They didn't know me. They had an open house. I fought my wife, could I please go? And she granted me permission. And so really just suck up to your spouse. That's really the key. But no, she granted me permission. We came, we clicked out, and like now here we are. You know what I mean? So now here you are. And it's not because any of us are so great, it's just that because we was in the same room. How much of your thing can get further if you're just in the room with the people that matters? Just be in the room.
Oh my God, I could go on that all day long. That one topic of being in the room. Like y'all, I got in a room a year and a half ago, little old me. Like I'm the most introverted extrovert you'll ever meet. I'm like by the wall, not really saying anything. And I got in a room and I met someone. And that person introduced me to someone else. And that person introduced me. And a year and a half later, I don't know if you've heard of a little podcast called Boss Babe. Flew to Austin and was on it in January.
Nice.
Me. Like I only have 3,000 something followers on Instagram. She has well over, 1 million? It wouldn't have happened if I didn't just get in the room and start meeting people in virtual, off the virtual camera and just in person. Like, put yourself out there.
Can I add on to that with the growth aspect and content sharing? So newsletters are another great way. There's a lot of people in the podcasting YouTube space that are now using Substack as a way to stream their conversations live. Riverside has those live features that you can take your conversation on Riverside and be on LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live. So you want to start thinking about where could you be and how different you could be there. I have a Substack, so find me.
I love it. So going back, Joanne, you've been so successful at helping specifically female entrepreneurs, again, know who you're talking to, right? She nailed it, about making, you really view podcasting as business first, right? And so I know we've really kind of touched a lot on different areas of growth, but perhaps there are people here, folks that'll see this later, that are at that place where they're like, I'm actually ready to start creating revenue. I'm ready to kind of level up. I would love to hear you speak to that, just kind of in general, but a couple things to get you going. Just what is one way that podcasters can think more strategically about growth in terms of revenue, not just reach? And if you have any go-to methods for kind of planning content that can help them convert from listeners to buyers.
Oh my God. The podcast funnel, sales funnel, is like my favorite funnel to play in all day long. The very first thing I want to do is shift your mindset. Your podcast is not just something you're doing. Okay, this is cute. I can put out 3 reels on Instagram a day from the pod. No, your podcast is a freaking business asset for you. Treat it like one. It's your biggest marketing tool. Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, that's your business card. That is where someone finds you for 30 seconds at a time. Then they're going to go find your podcast and they're going to really start to get invested in you as a person. They're going to hear your tonality. They're going to see how you show up, what you talk about. Do they agree with you, not disagree with you? Like I drop the F-bomb all the time on my show. If you don't like that, I'm not the right person to work with for you. They wouldn't have known that from Instagram. Well, maybe that piece they would have, but. So when you look at it as a business asset in the business and you've got to treat it, I think a lot of podcast hosts they'll hire out their social media and they'll hire out someone to make their Instagram reels and their TikTok reels look perfect, but they're not spending the same money on their podcast. And that's where you're making your money. Because that's where you can get someone on your newsletter. You can get someone into your channel on Instagram. You can start getting their email, their phone numbers to send SMS messages. Like, that's where you're getting them to literally raise their hand and say, I am interested in what you're doing. So that when you send your offer out from your email list, they're like, yeah, take my money. Here's the credit card. Take all the credit cards. Here we go. We made $600,000 last year on the podcast, and I've never had a sponsor in my life.
Woo!
Man. So this myth that you have to monetize through sponsorship, like pennies for dollars, if you're not making thousands and thousands of downloads, I always say, build the show, grow the show. Most people will say build, grow, and then monetize. I'm like, no, you build the show, figure out how you're going to monetize from the show, and then your only job is to grow the show. Because if you set your podcast up to draw your people in to your email list so that then you can send your offers out and your offers are aligned with the audience that you're talking to on your podcast, because if you're not making money, there's a misalignment somewhere. Then your only job is to grow the show and put it in front of new ears. It's not to worry about how many sponsors you have or how you're going to monetize. That's going to happen on its own, almost on the back end. So that's my biggest advice is figure out the alignment piece. Did I just talk in circles?
No, you just took us to church. That was great. And so I just to break it down for folks, maybe of like when we're talking about, so you're like, I'm not having sponsors, but I'm having offers that are in alignment. Can you speak a little bit more specifically? I know it's specific to you and your podcast, but just so people can start to think about maybe what those offers are. Because they may say, oh, I've got a podcast about, after school cartoons, or maybe a couple of ways that they could start thinking about. You may not be in online coaching, you may not be building courses. But again, going back to ChatGPT, you could go, hey, this is what my podcast is about. I want to come up with some offers. So maybe you could kind of speak a little bit to that and help jog memory for folks.
I'm sorry, real quick. Does everybody know what an offer is? Can we just clarify what the offer, what an offer is?
Yeah, the offer is the actual thing that you are selling to make money. So whether it is a digital course, whether it is an ebook, whether it is a hardback book, whether it is selling yourself to be a speaker on stages that you get paid for. It's whatever you're physically putting that dollar amount to, that someone's exchanging their credit card for. So a lot of podcast hosts, my world, they're selling digital courses, or they're starting up their coaching programs, or I actually had a student a couple months ago, she sells coloring books for kids with autism. That's all she sells. And so she was struggling because she was like, she talks about being a mom of a special needs kid on her podcast, and she's like, I don't know how to connect my coloring books to the podcast. And I said, great, let's do this really, really freaking simple. Do you have a Stripe account? Yes, I do. Oh, perfect. Do you have a mini chat account? Yes, I do. Great. So now on every episode that she does, she says, hey, if you DM me, the number of the episode or the word, or, I'm going to send you, it's 99 cents or $1.99, like a printable PDF. You can sit down with your kid and color it. Last month, she made $8,000. That's more than she made last year on her coloring books. Because she stopped trying to push the full book. And she said, well, what do my audience want? Well, if they're listening to this episode, they're really connected to this piece of the special needs. This is my favorite coloring page for this, but and she just started selling dollar offers.
I'm sorry, you said something real good. This is my podcast and host coming in to me. You said something real good. You said, she said, what does my audience want? I think so many times we're guessing what they want and we're throwing stuff at them. And they're like, yeah, we don't want this. We actually want this. And one of the coolest things that we can do with just ask them, hey, what do you want? A funny story, I was building this big old course about all things podcasting and stuff like that. And it's just a whole bunch of stuff. I asked some people in the community, what are the things that you really, really, really care about? It was like, I don't know how to upload my YouTube video. Go me, because I'm trying to change the world. Yeah. And her blockage was that she didn't know how to put the video on YouTube in the first place, and that killed her dream. Not consistency, not finding the right guest, not finding your niche, not that. It was upload the video, and so. If we never got to that point of for real, what do you find valuable right now, and serve that to them, you start to see things change.
And please remember that your zone of genius is whatever is easiest to you, most likely. You think, oh, well, everyone should know how to upload a video to YouTube. Well, that's because that's his zone of genius. So it comes naturally to him. For the people he's serving, that was their pain point. That was the transformation.
No, I think so many thoughts. There's so many good things here. I'm overwhelmed. I think that's so, and I think going back to zone of genius, when we talk about why you, why now, I think I talk about that a lot. What is the thing that right now we put a spotlight on you and you can wow us with the things that you know, right? You know so much more than you think you do. You are so much more interesting than you think you are, and you have so much more road ahead of you than you think that you do. And so much of this growth even just starts with you and the willingness to grow and to change, right? To your point, it's like you don't want to be trying to sell your audience something they don't need. It's also okay to sell them a couple of things till you figure out what they want.
Yeah.
Whether that's through asking them, whether that's through doing different ManyChat. Oh, at the end of the month, nobody responded with this DM, but oh my gosh, I sold like X amount with this. People will tell you if you're listening. People will tell you if you ask. And you have to be willing to take that. That's some of this growth too. That's that burnout. How can I set up these systems for myself so I can make more money while I sleep? There are ways to make this easier on myself, right?
Y'all, here's your $15 business hack. Get a ManyChat account. It's $15 a month. And then for the next 90 days, put stuff up on Instagram or Facebook and just have people DM you the episode number. You can make it real easy. We're on episode 300, DM me 300, and I'll send you the link to the episode, or I'll send you a PDF or whatever. At the end of 90 days, go back into your ManyChat and see how many people engage with what topics the most. If you did 4 episodes on home care therapy and 4 episodes on yoga with dogs, and nobody engaged on ManyChat with the puppies, but they did with the home care, and lean in. They are telling you what they want. Like, so if you're not sure and you don't want to do a poll, like, just do something that easy, and then look at the data. It will tell you. It's not sexy, but it's sexy when it hits your bank account.
So there's many in marketing and branding that say you're serving who you were, right? And you need to think about that, because if you are trying to, you're both experts in your niche, right? What did you need a year ago? What did you need 5 years ago? And if you start putting that in your head and start thinking, well, where was I 5 years ago? What did I need? How can I serve that person who's there now where I'm not? That can also help, because you're delivering something that you would have found valuable. And maybe they will too.
So good. So good. I'm going to ask you guys one more general question, and then I want to open it up to you all. I'm seeing a lot of nodding, I'm seeing a lot of snaps, a lot of energy, so I really want to give a lot of time for you guys to ask the specific questions that you want. And so the last thing I want to ask is, what do you feel is the most underrated or underused way to grow a podcast? The thing that's kind of there hanging that most people overlook, either because it's too simple or it does take effort and people don't want to put the effort in.
I'll talk long, so I'll go quick. One-to-one, going to especially if you're under 100 followers, downloads, whatever the case, like you're at the beginning anyway, you got the time. You know what I mean? It's like, sometimes we're like, oh man, we hear so much advice about scaling. We'll never get to that point of scaling if we're never off the ramp. And the easiest way is to go into a place where people need the thing that you're talking about. Give them free value. I know that's a scary word. Give them free value, connect with them, and point them to the direction of your podcast. And psychologically, this thing called reciprocity is so powerful, you can't resist it. You can't resist it. So if you give something that they value, and then say, hey, this is the thing that I'm doing, they're like, oh, okay, cool. And just out of gratefulness, they'll subscribe. Do that like 50 times. And then that's your first 50. And then do that like 50 more. And then like that's your first 100. And I see no head shaking because it's a lot of work. I understand. That's why I will do it and most people won't, and I will win. That's true.
So on the growth aspect, when you're structuring out your podcast and you're really thinking about what you want to include, I'm going to give you something that I'm going to be doing myself. So I got burnt out, and I was creating a podcast for people, and I felt like they weren't listening. I felt like, what was it? Why am I doing this? And it was exhausting, and the conversations were becoming boring to me, and I'm like, well, I don't want to do any more tips and tricks. I don't really care that you just start to get that feeling. And when the passion isn't there, you need to take a step back and be like, well, what do I find passionate? And what I personally find passionate is talking to individuals and asking them questions. Regular people. And what I think podcasts are missing are that radio element of real people. And if you're planning out a podcast that you want to succeed, you may want to start thinking about how you can do that. And there are ways that you can have people send in audio messages, but I actually am this is my whole thought, is I'm planning on going to a location. I'm gonna have a sign, and I'm gonna interview people on a topic that I plan on talking about with a guest. And I just think that if you start thinking outside the box, why are people listening? What are people doing on Instagram and TikTok? They're watching and listening to people. Regular people they don't know. They don't know them. So why not bring some normal people into your podcast in a creative way? Think outside the box, and I think you'll do really great.
I'm gonna go old school. Get back on Facebook. I know, I just said that to a bunch of like millennials and stuff. Facebook is good for one thing, and it is groups.
Yes.
So I'm not saying you need to post on Facebook. I'm not saying you need to leave your TikTok for Facebook. But 15 minutes a day looking through groups that you have joined that your ideal listener is in and just seeing what gets posted in there. Like, what are they asking? What are they asking their friends about in the group? Like, what are they talking about? That's what's trending for your people right now. Like, so if you're struggling to figure out what your content for next week's gonna be or next month, like go spend 15 minutes in Facebook. It is a treasure trove.
Let me tell you how on spot that is. No, that's the key. Especially like if you want to grow your audience fast, go into a group and be that sniper. Like go in there and answer every question and give them value, become that rising contributor, become that all-star contributor, and now you're the authority on that topic, and now people look to you because you're the one with the answers. And then also, real quick, what happens is when you start answering questions, you start hearing your target audience language.
And when you can mirror their language, man, you got them.
And like somebody's like, oh man, I burnt the biscuit the other day and I couldn't believe it. And then you turn around and you make a post, hey, you ever burnt the biscuit? How did they know they were talking to me? You know, because you're using that exact language and it connects to them. So 100% Facebook sniper, yes.
Like that's not where I'm gonna grow my show necessarily, but it's where I'm gonna grow the content. All day. Well, 15 minutes a day.
And then you weave those questions into your own conversations at your podcast, right?
Absolutely.
You're answering them in your podcast. You're answering them on social media. You're becoming more than just, the person responding on Facebook. You're now, oh wait, didn't she just, wow, now she's on YouTube talking about this. Oh my gosh, I essentially helped contribute to this. I gotta follow her. Like they want to be a part of it. That's really what I keep saying, and it's just in a different way. Like your audience wants to feel a part of your show. Yeah. Okay, we're past the I'm listening to this to just get ideas. They want to be a part of the room. They want to be in the room. That's what it comes down to.
They want to feel like they can sit down and have a glass of wine with you if that's your thing. It is mine.
I think one of the detriments is that I think sometimes like we get the microphone and we hear ourselves and it sounds good and we get the crispy 4K video and then we're our own mini celebrity, but people don't want celebrities, they want servants. And if you have that audience and you serve your audience, then they'll come back and serve more and then your show grows. But like as long as we're just trying to be a celebrity, have posts to go viral.
And let me just add on to that because I am actually not the celebrity mindset, right? Like I enjoy talking to people and hearing their stories, right? Interviewing people. So if you're someone who is trying to figure out, well, I'm an introvert and I don't know if I could podcast. No, you're probably gonna be a really good one because you listen. Okay, think about that.
That was so great. And the only other thing I want to add is tell people you have a podcast. It's the most simple thing. People don't, you think you're telling people because I made a little post. Oh, I don't want to annoy anybody. Do you know how long I've had a podcast? I'll run into people I know, people who have bought me gifts and come to my home and they'll go, well, I didn't know you had a podcast. Yeah.
Like
And
I
that's-
say, your only job is to grow the show.
Exactly. And so the more that you're telling people, and you may get, like, I'll share a vulnerable thing for me, I'll get intimidated sometimes, right? Like we even said Joe Rogan, and some of you were maybe like, yeah, and then a lot of you were like, no, right? There was an audible groan. Not everybody is going to be your target audience, and sometimes I'll get intimidated. I'll be talking, my husband's a very masculine man, he's got, buddy bros, and if they're like, oh, what's your podcast about? And I say, oh, my self-transformation journey from being a broke comic who had an addiction to being a six-figure business owner, that I know that podcast isn't going to be for them. A transformation story and healing is probably not their story, but they have wives, they have girlfriends. Don't underestimate who you're talking to. They are a 3D person. So always telling people, and it's another opportunity for you to practice talking about yourself with disattachment to outcome. That the more you get used to hearing yourself say that, then you're just saying it. It's growing your podcast and knowing the rest doesn't matter. Cool? Now,
Oh, yeah, real quick. And if you are an introvert, just real quick, if y'all can shout out to me, what does my shirt say? You know what I mean? And I never said it.
that's your mini chat. It's doing the work for you. You know what I mean? I love this. You guys, this information is great. We want to open it up to you. If you have a question,